Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to John's Top Technical Tips. Here we are at our lovely Yarmouth Station Hire Centre. Good morning, Holly.
Good morning.
This morning we're going to be talking all about gears. This is one of our lovely new 2020 new season hire bikes, which we're just in the process of preparing. This is a ladies 15-inch form peak trail. We're just going to go through the gears on this, make sure it's all nice for you guys to ride when you come and hire your bikes, hopefully pretty soon. So anyway, let's crack on. Okay, let's start with the basic gears. Basically you have two shifters usually on a bike, certainly of this sort of type. You have activate by the thumb. Thumb makes it easier, finger generally makes it harder. And they just actually are just pulling the cable. The cable on this occasion runs through the frame, pops out here, and that shifter is activating the rear mech here. This is the rear derailleur. We can do some basic adjustments on this. The first thing we need to do is make sure the cage is straight and not bent, so just do a quick visual check on it to make sure it's lined up. On this we need a 9mm spanner just to undo the cable, which we'll do. Make sure that's nice and loose, and then we just do again a visual check. This one's actually not too bad, but for any reason if this cage is not in line, we have two what are called limiter screws here. They're labelled with an H and an L, which means high and low. H being the high gear, so it limits the movement of the cage outwards, and L with low gear limits the cage towards the wheel itself. So we need to make sure both these limiter screws are set so that the gears work properly. So if we need to move the cage on the high side, the high gear, this screw here, and we can just basically do a quick tweak to that, moves that cage in and out, loosen it and tighten it. Once we're happy that the cage is set for the high gear, then we can check it for the low gear, and we do this by pressing the derailleur in, and it will go up, and we do it nice and slow because what we don't want to do is push it into the wheel. And you can just hear that tinking a little bit, which indicates that low gear is just a little bit slack. So what we need to do is just tighten up the low screw, which is the left hand screw here. So just tighten that up slightly, perhaps half a turn. We don't need to make big adjustments, we're just doing little adjustments each time. Again, let's just check that, and we can see that's now not tinking those gears. That low screw is now adjusted properly. Okay, so once we've got our high and low limiter screws set at the right place, we can reconnect our cable. We do that by just simply pulling it through. We're not looking to make it super tight, kind of finger tight, but we don't want it all sloppy and loose either. And once we've got it to the sort of right tension, we simply tighten it up with a spanner, and then we're ready to do a final test. So Holly, you just click through the gears for us. As you can see, that cable's not quite tight enough, that it's not actually activating the gears properly. So the little barrel adjuster here, we just turn that until we see the chain move up. That's about right. Click through the next one for us, Holly. And you can see the gears are running quite quietly, nice and smoothly. Going through all the gears right up to the top. Let's see if it runs back down. Just got it a little bit quick, just for half a turn. And that's really good. So that rear mech is now running nice and true. Now, having done the rear mech, we now do the front mech, which is this little bit of equipment here. So this deflates the chain over the front chain rings. This one's got 3 front chain rings. So basically there's 3 clicks, 3 shifts that make it move up to the big ring, which is obviously the hardest gear. Most important thing here, we put the gear at the back onto the number 1 cog, or the biggest cog, and we drop it onto the front cog here, and we can have a look in here now that we've actually got a little bit of rub. So we need to make sure that the cage is parallel to the outer chain ring, and we can see here, if we look at this actual outer cage is running off slightly, so it's not quite parallel. So what we need to do is undo the bolt on this side. That allows us to slightly adjust this front mech round. Oh, it's nice and tight, this one, straight out the factory. Give me a little bit of, there we go. So I just need to move that out slightly, again with my goody eyes. I'll just move that slightly. And then what we need to do at the front here, on a new bike you'll see this little sticker here that actually allows us to mark where the teeth of the chain should go. You can see here that actual cage is too high. The teeth aren't matching on the little sticker. So we just need to drop that down a wee bit. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's it, we're in perfect place there. I think that cage is still lightly out now, but I think that's about it. So that's now got that front mech in the right place. Okay, so the cage is now at the right height and it's now parallel to the chain rings, but we've still got a little bit of rub, which means that effectively the cage limiter screws are not in the right place. So all we need to do is undo the cable here, simple 5mm Allen key. That loosens the cable from there, and we're back round to the side again. And it's back to the limiter screws. Again, we've got 2 limiter screws here, labelled high and low. The low limiter screw limits the inward movement of the cage, and the high, the outer. So let's just adjust the low screw, which is this one here. That will move the cage slightly away. You can see that moving. That's moving it slightly away from the chain. And we want a gap of about 2 to 3 mils. So let's have a look at that. To get that right, in the right place, and then hopefully that won't rub. Okay, so no noise there. Reattach that cable. Just pass that through there, over the top, in behind the bolt, clamp, and just tighten that up. Fiddly little job sometimes. There we go. And that's now nice and tight. Alright, now so we've reattached the derailleur cable, and we're just going to see how that's all working in terms of cable tension. Let's just test that. We can hear we've got a little bit of cable rub there, or a little bit of chain rub there, and again there. So you can see if we look closely, it's actually the inner plate of the derailleur rubbing. So that indicates, and it's also a bit slow dropping down, that the cable's a little bit too tight. On the front mate, we have a little barrel adjuster here on the shifter itself. So what we need to do is just loosen that off a little bit, give it a little bit of slack. And let's give it one more go and see what we're doing now. We can actually hear now that that's actually not rubbing any longer. That's not bad. And the shift upwards is actually nice and smooth. When we push, we can see that that is actually going a little bit too far. So what we need to do is just adjust the high screw, which is this right hand side one here. So just tighten that up slightly, and that stops the movement of that cage outwards. That's now nice and tight. And we can now see everything's dropping down. No rub. That's all working nice and smooth. Okay, just drop it down to the high gear and just check that again, make sure we've got no rub, and again, lovely and silent. So that's it. We've managed to adjust the rear mech by using the high and low screws and the cable tension here. We've adjusted the front mech again with the high and low screws here to limit its movement, and with the cable tension up here on the shifter. And that bike's now all properly adjusted and pretty much ready to ride. Do you want to give it a little test for us, Holes?
Yeah.
Your little legs get up on there?
I don't know. Try it. Right, ready?
Ready, steady, go. And that's it for this week, everybody. We've finished our little video on gears. Next week we'll be back. We're going to talk all about e-bikes. See you next week for our little e-bike special. Bye for now. Wave goodbye, Holly.
Bye.
How's those gears?